Hey gang, welcome. It's a new week. It's Wes. You know, the bald one with the beard. So this week's episode is kind of a doozy because the family got, we got new baby here and we needed to get more, I guess, adult things around the office besides all of my crazy monitors and stuff like that. So we actually bought a printer. But it also came with a scanner, and this is the first time I've had a scanner in the house for 20 something years, probably before I went to college and, all that stuff so many moons ago. But it's nice because it allows me to work a little bit differently. We got the Canon, the Pixma MG 2522, something like that. I'm going to have a link for it at the bottom of the video, but I just wanted to kind of get that out there. And this video, what this is really going to cover is having slightly different process is going to bring slightly different results based on whatever your workflow is. And sometimes that's what you want to do. I know I've talked about it before, and I started kind of as a traditionally trained painter, kind of a plein air painter, life study, that type of stuff, very observational. So one of the things, because I want to work in the entertainment industry, and since I've been thankful and grateful enough to be able to work in that, so far, something I need to improve on is working from imagination and trying to bridge that gap in realism versus imaginary to get that, what they call imaginative realism. It's figurative art and stuff like that, Magic the Gathering, D&D, that sort of thing. So a way for me to get better at that is to work on my weak points. And one of my major weak points is working from a traditional line drawing. I'm not used to that. I don't sketch a whole lot. I mean, there was a while there I hadn't sketched in like 15 years. But what the scanner is now allowing me to do is get my trusty mechanical pencil, which is what I learned to draw with many, many, many years ago, probably 30 years ago, and some computer paper. And that's it. No fancy stuff, no big graphite charcoal, none of that. Just a mechanical pencil and sketch something down, scan it in, work on it digitally. So that's what we're going to do this time. And you'll see there were quite a few issues during recording. None that had to do with the scanner. But primarily, Windows decided to do a Windows update and freeze during recording. So you're going to see that. I kept it in, all that stuff. Sometimes it just doesn't work, you know what I mean? So I am happy with the result, but I do think it's very much working on my weak points, which I have to do in order to take that next step and get better. But we'll talk about that during the narration. I just wanted to give you a shout out on what type of hardware we're using for this one. Like I said, link in the description below for that printer. But any printer with a scanner should work, or even a cell phone. Like if there's a way you can get the lighting really even and take a photo of whatever you're drawing or your canvas or what have you, and take that into a digital space, this workflow might work pretty well for you too. But without further ado, let's go and talk about using new methods and how it can bring about some new results. Alrighty, so here we're getting going, and you're going to see here this first part, I actually bring it up, and whenever you get a Canon printer, all that extra software they have, like I consider it bloatware. It's just stuff that you don't need, but they have it anyway. That's sort of what came with this, but there is one handy little shortcut just to go straight to the scanner, and that's what we do here. It takes a second to boot up. I did speed all of this footage up, but really it's just taking my line art or my scanned, pencil sketch drawing into Photoshop or any digital art software. It doesn't even have to be Photoshop. And what I do, there used to be a way that I would do this way back in the day of, using the color range picker, pick everything that's white and delete it, and then do all this other stuff. But I found a way easier way to quote unquote prep my line art, which is bring it into Photoshop and then make a layer underneath my scanned art and make it 50% gray. Just fill it with 50% gray, completely half between black and white. And then change the line art to a multiply layer. Then what you'll see, it probably moved pretty fast, but what you'll see happens is it comes in kind of light. So what I do is I duplicate that line art layer, so then it makes it a little bit more black and rich as far as the line art goes. And then I merge those two layers together. And since they're both on multiply mode, they don't like counterbalance each other. Because sometimes if you have like, let's say a multiply layer on top of a normal layer and you merge the two, the multiply effect goes away because it inherits what the bottom layer style is. Yeah, weird technicality stuff. But just know that I'm basically duplicating my two multiply layers of line art into another just flat layer. And I keep that on top. And what I'll do is I have that 50% background layer, or the 50% gray background layer. Then I have a values layer. So this is where I actually come in with, in grayscale, work on my values and paint underneath. That way the line art stays on top. And this is definitely, I don't know, it's this weird hybrid of a new method and an old method. So I used to work like this way back in like 2004, 2005, whenever I went to art school for the first time. We had at our school at Oklahoma City University, we had just gotten the G-Max? What were they called? No, the G4s. I think they were called the Gen 4s. The ones were so they were Macintosh computers. It was kind of an all Mac campus. And they were the computers that the monitor was that cool like see-through plastic stuff that came in the crazy colors like orange and green and red. And the way we would work in the lab, because that was in our computer lab, and the artists, we had our own computer lab, so we didn't have to share with the photographers or the cinematographers or whatever. We had our own thing that we could do. It was us and like the architects could come in and they could do their CAD stuff on it. But they had a huge scanner. And what we would do is we would just take our art, whether we're doing it on linen, whether we were doing some canvas stuff, like life drawing, and we could get it, and it was a huge scanner, and we could just scan in our piece, really no matter how large it was. Sometimes you'd have to cut it in half. Literally, sometimes you had to cut it in half, so you had to say goodbye to your art for the posterity of digital. But, it was what it was. Technology was a little more limited back then. But this is kind of the way I was used to working. And throughout my tenure at the art school, I started loving painting more and more, like actually getting oils and acrylics, and even like, I didn't use a lot of gouache, but sort of mixed media type stuff, and use that more often. And I started falling away more from the sketch drawing into scanning into digital, because I was having more fun painting. I just liked paint and mixing color and observing and trying to match what I see, and that's just, it was almost like a magic trick whenever I could do it, and I felt more accomplished. Because whenever you're working from imagination, which primarily this one is, it's kind of easy to fall into the trap of one of two things. Either you think, oh, this is good enough, no one knows what this looks like because it's from my imagination, so yeah, I guess this is right, knowing you could do better. Or you beat yourself up because it does not look as good as something you would work at with heavy reference or looking from life. And that's kind of where I fall in, even to this day, is that latter camp. I know for a fact my illustrative work is much weaker than my just get out a paintbrush, even if it's digital, get out the paint, do some thick strokes, and kind of smear things around and sculpt it around until it looks like something. My brain works better that way, but I will never improve if I don't work on the weakness. Do you know what I mean? Like, I will not, I'll always kind of dread the working from imagination stuff if I never do it. But I'm hoping if I do it more and kind of brute force it to look okay, maybe that confidence will start building in it and I can start merging the two. Because make no mistake, I love working from reference. I think it's the best way to get better quickly. I think it's the way that every artist should primarily work, is with as much reference as humanly possible. Whether it's reference you're gathering yourself, maybe with a camera or with your phone, or maybe you buy a photo pack, or you buy a bundle deal from a photographer And, they have poses. I know Graphic Studio, Jen Ravina Tran is also great. I mean, there's so many. Howard Lyon makes some great stuff. So there's so many different packs that you can buy. And I highly recommend it. If there's something you're interested in and somebody has made like a reference pack, like, oh, here's 300 pictures of Norway, and you really want to paint that style of landscape, buy it. That way you don't have to worry about like quote unquote copyright stuff, because you now own that to be able to use it as a reference. Of course, you would still credit the artist, the original artist. Hey, this is a study of a photograph by so-and-so. But now so-and-so can look and see that you bought it. And, it's all on the up and up. You're supporting your favorite artists. And then they get to, acknowledge that kickback. And then they get to see the stuff that you make as inspired by their craft. So it's a really cool cycle. So I highly recommend working without or with reference. But that being said, I think it's the dream, at least for me, but for every artist, to be kind of like that Kim Jong-gi. I can imagine everything vividly and perfectly and be able to draw it and not need reference anymore. And I have a perfect visual library, and like I can just this perfect memory of like, oh, the tree twisted this way and it did this and my forms are perfect. Like, I'm probably 200 years away from that. But I think I gotta practice, if I want to get better at the thing. You're not gonna get into better shape if you don't exercise. So artistically, you gotta exercise. You gotta do the stuff that you don't like doing, that you're not as good at, that's not gonna get you all the likes. Like here's the thing, I can put a bet on this. I bet this video, because of the art that I produce in it, will get less views on YouTube. And the art itself will get less likes than my other painterly stuff. I know for a fact. And to be fair, it's because it's not as good. It's just not. It's not as trained. It doesn't have that artistic eye. But you kind of don't have to care. You have to push through. And sometimes what makes that happen is working in a new method. And I think bringing back that method from, forever ago, it's 2021 now, and I went to college in 2004. So, many, many moons ago, maybe that's the thing. Maybe I need to shake out of my comfort zone and do the thing I know I'm not good at. And that's going to lead to greater results down the line. Yeah, it's going to be a tougher road. Sure, it won't get all the likes on Instagram. It won't do all this other stuff. But I know that I'm achieving something because I'm trying my best to think about what I think looks good and just try to put it onto a page and put it onto a canvas. Now, that being said, I did have Evan Amundsen, I hope I said his name correctly, is one of my favorite artists. He does stuff in oils and acrylic and digital, and he's worked for everybody, man. He's worked for Warhammer and Magic, and he's one of those guys. He is one of those guys that his prints sell out. He does monthly Patreon, tutoring things with some of the best artists in the world. Like he's incredible. So I did want to use some of his color understanding, but even that, you'll notice that I bring it up for a little bit, and then once I start feeling like I start relying on it too much, I just close it. I get rid of it. And I'm like, okay, I had that boost of inspiration by seeing, I know it sounds self-deprecating, but like seeing what a good artist can do. And then like, oh, cool, it is possible. And then you use that momentum yourself to kind of drive to that next, your next little level ups, hoping that you can start achieving that type of quality. And also, to be fair, some of these pieces that Evan has made took him 40 and 50 hours. And even with a computer crash, even with refilming a big part of this took less than 3 hours. So, of course, I can't compare my 3-hour hybrid concoction with a super highly tuned 40-plus hour for publishing final result, That's just not realistic. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to hold myself to that kind of standard. Like, in 3 hours, I want to make something that's good enough to get me jobs. And I know that's probably the speaking of a madman. I know that. I know patience is a virtue, and I do think patience is a thing that if I spend more time on some pieces, I think they're going to be way, way better as a result. But like I said, I was taught in that plein air style. I was taught at, hey, you got one shot, man. You're going in. You got to get that lighting down right. You got to nail it from what you see. Try to remember it to the best of your ability. Come back. And it doesn't matter quite if it's exactly right. Like, if you were smart, you would take pictures of it. That way you could work fairly consistently from what you saw out in the open. But if not, try to get the feel of it. The feel of it is more important than the look of it. And that's what I always go back to. And I think that's what part of this training is, of working from imagination, trying to build a design that feels cool. It may look sloppy, may not be as refined as some of my favorite artists' stuff, but I still want it to feel interesting. I want it to feel and have a mood. Because I think mood, at least for me, goes a long way. And trying to shake up the method. I know we had this video called Shake Things Up, which is sort of this topic. But really with this one's more kind of centered to tackling your weakness, tackling something that you know you need to work on. You don't want to, you're going to grit your teeth, you hate doing it, but it needs to happen. Another one I have to do is 3-point perspective. I hate it. It feels like I'm doing math. It feels like there's no creativity in it. I just feel like I have a ruler and I have these lines, and the lines go to a point, and like, it doesn't feel like there's any creativity behind it. But that's absolutely not true. If you look at some incredible background artists for like Netflix shows, I know Nathan Fowkes has done a ton of stuff. Aaron Blaze did some, like, contemporarily, Jose Vega, who works on Castlevania. Incredible backgrounds. And that guy knows perspective like you wouldn't believe. And to say his stuff is not artistful or full of artistic intent and just it's rich with it. It's just soaking in artistic loveliness. So clearly it's my perception of those techniques and the foundational skills of perspective that need adjusting, not the technique itself. You know what I mean? Like, I think there is something to working on your weaknesses. And yeah, working on the new method. I know another way that a lot of people like working. Ashley Wood. He is one of my favorite comic artists, but really one of my favorite artists in general. He has such a unique take on how he does proportions and people and places, and it's very energetic. It's very chaotic. But the way he works and the way he finds a lot of work now, primarily now he's more of just a traditional painter. But for his digital art, what he would do is he would do his underpainting on a canvas, take a picture of the canvas with the underpainting, take it into Photoshop, then he would paint a little bit, get it to a point that he liked it, then he would print that off, tape it to that canvas, paint with real paint on top of it. Once he got to a certain point on that, he would then take another picture to bring it back into Photoshop. Like, he kept bouncing back and forth. And that's so interesting to me, because now you're getting the spontaneity of real paint with the control and the technique of using a digital piece of software. And that's genius, man. Like that makes total sense to me. And maybe this is one step in that direction. Maybe this is me slowly coming to grips with, maybe I might try that a time or two. Maybe I might get some watercolor paper and try to do a little underpainting and bring that in and see what we can cook up. Do some color picking and all that stuff. That'll be a lot of fun. But I mean, I don't know. I think this one's a weird one. I think it was also kind of heartbreaking whenever the computer crashed in the middle, and I was like, oh, I lost like 35 to 40 minutes of work. And whenever your paintings only take 2 to 3 hours, that's a considerable chunk. But like I say in the little note, I don't know if it's come up yet, but like I say in the note, like, I kind of wasn't liking where it was headed. It was looking too dark. I was trying so hard to do that gothic-y, very ambient look that I think I just messed up the value, something fierce. And So it was maybe a blessing that it crashed and I had to kind of start with a few steps back and kind of reevaluate where I was. And I really feel like the personality of this piece didn't come together until the very end when I added the backlight and then started doing some rim light. I think that's the thing that kind of brought it over to that next level. And like I said, it's still not my best work, and it's not my favorite work, but it's necessary. This is the weightlifting. This is the eating right and running a marathon, or like prepping to run the marathon. Like, this is the stuff that I need to flex enough, I need to work out enough to know that if I get to a situation that I have to draw my way out of, I can do it. You know what I mean? Like, I can brute force a piece until it works. I think having that kind of confidence will be more freeing in the long run for my career. And like I said, I mean, we're approaching, in the next 3 weeks, we're approaching my 1 year mark as being full-time freelance artist. And I will be doing a YouTube video about that. What was I able to accomplish in my first year? What is my next year look like as far as goals are concerned? One of those things, I can't talk about it yet, but just know I'm having a phone call on Friday that I'm very excited about. But things are still cooking, things are moving forward, and I think now is the time. Now that I'm early in my career, I'm setting up my client base, I'm looking at bigger places to, hang my hat type stuff, as either as a freelancer or as an outsource artist or an art director or what have you. Maybe now's the time to take all my chances and just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. So I think new methods like this are the best way to go, because like we've talked about before in some previous videos, not only is this about finding what works for me, or if you're trying a new method, what works for you. It's not just about finding out what works, it's finding out what doesn't work. What do you not like? And I think there's a difference between, not liking something and like not wanting to do something because you're not great at it. I think those are two separate deals, and I'm as guilty as anybody. It's like avoiding drawing. I just don't like drawing. I don't like it. I need to like it. For the business I want to get into and for the type of career I want to have, I need to know how to draw. I want to do comic book covers. I want to do Magic the Gathering cards. I want to, these big things. I want to get in Spectrum Annual. I want to get in these big things. I want to be published in different magazines and get in, do a tutorial for Imagine FX magazine. That'd be a dream come true. Are you kidding me? I just need to tighten my ship a little bit. I need to buckle down, and I need to not have super weak points. I need to be like a well-trained prize fighter to where, I might have some slight weaknesses, but even my weaknesses are okay. Like, I'm okay at it. And I don't think I'm quite there yet with drawing and doing the understanding of bringing a drawing into a more flat illustrative style instead of thick globs of paint. Do it in a way that's a little more approachable, a little more illustrative, a little bit more fantastical as far as like comics and cartoons. And I think there's something there. There's a lot of life there that sometimes I worry that my paintings might lack. They might be good academically, but if they're not interesting, who cares, right? So I think this is maybe a step in that direction, but I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure why I have this kind of tick like in my brain, just kind of like scratching that you need to keep doing this. You need to keep doing this. Like, I don't know why. It's an instinct. I don't know if the instinct is good or bad, but I think working on your weak points is always going to be in your best benefit. And it's hard, man. It's hard. Like, showing stuff like this is kind of embarrassing just because it's not to the level I know I can be. But I think that's important too. Be vulnerable. Be a student of the game. Always be a white belt. Be the most learningest artist you know. Learn from everybody. Like, look at everything. Try different techniques. Just go for it, man. Because, it's that YOLO stuff, man. You got one life to live. You gotta live it. Be your best self. Figure out what works for you. Shake up your method. Just push yourself. just don't get complacent. Don't be the person that does the same painting, even if it's a good one. Just make different stuff, man. Just have fun and discover yourself and discover your likes and dislikes and methods and all that stuff. But I think that's my time for today. Kind of an interesting topic, sort of off topic topic, but hopefully there's something here, and hopefully there's something cool to find out of this process. Like I said, I'm going to be playing around with this more. I am very happy that we have a scanner in the house because I think it does open up some more possibilities, and anything that opens up those floodgates is always good. But let me know what you think. Is there a method that you have recently tried that like worked super well for you? Or is there one that you've wanted to try but you're still a little nervous? Like, I'm really interested to know. I do know some people like take pictures on their phone and then, you know, send it to their Dropbox or Google Drive and then bring that in and do a paint over, like stuff like that. Like, I'm interested in what people's techniques are, because I think the technique and the method that you use is also part of your style. I think that's part of your eye and your brain, and your problem solving is absolutely going to influence, you know, what you're at with your hobby or your career. Or I think there's, you know, that same brain is making those decisions is the same brain that's going to give us beautiful art. So I'm really interested to know that. But let me know in the comments what you think about this topic, and if you've run into any of those methods that you've tried for yourself and liked or didn't like or what have you. But that's my time. I'm Wes. You know where to find me. We'll have some crazy videos over the next week. Next week's video is going to be a doozy. To say that my jaw was on the floor with this new program setting that I played with is an understatement. So be on the lookout for that one. I'm excited to show that one to you. But until we meet again, go make cool stuff, and we'll see you next time.